let's chat about the economy here. So, again, good news, bad news. The U.S. economy created 353,000 jobs in January. Hooray?
Well, so yes, it's great to be creating jobs, but what this means is that the Federal Reserve has no business thinking about cutting rates right now. And frankly, they're probably not going to cut rates for longer than people think because they have a dual mandate: control inflation, and inflation is too high; maximize employment, and we are maximizing employment. There's no problem on that mandate. That's why you would cut rates, to try to lift employment. You don't need to do that now. But we still have an inflation problem, and you raise rates to fight inflation, so you should not be cutting in this atmosphere.
Okay. What timeline are you thinking rates could go down? Because I'd like to refinance the house.
So I have some bad news for you, that I don't think rates go down very much this year at all.
This year? They were definitely talking about it being early this year.
Yes. There was a lot of people thought maybe they'll cut in March. Jerome Powell had said more or less that they're not cutting in March. People moved on to May. Some people say June. June, July are perhaps the earliest I think they cut. I think if they don't cut by July, they're not going to cut in September because that would look very political, 8 weeks before Election Day. The next time they could cut would be November. They actually pushed off the meeting so that it doesn't happen on Tuesday, Wednesday, which would be Tuesday of Election Day in November. It would be Wednesday, Thursday. So maybe right after Election Day, they cut possibly, and then skip a month and are cutting next year. So I think the market has it wrong. I think that inflation is stickier than people think, and that the jobs market, frankly, is just too strong to justify a cut. Now, lots of things could go wrong. We have this whole, the Red Sea, Gaza thing is becoming one conflict. That could destabilize.
What was that thing you just said? Sorry, I just missed you. What was that thing you said?
Oh, it's just the Gaza and Red Sea conflict is, could create a bigger problem. It's already creating a significant supply chain problem around the world. If that gets worse than we think it will, then I do think, then it's possible something goes wrong in the economy. You end up with shortages. We're all, eating our Slater prep food. And there we
Preparewithslater.com.
there we are. By the way, I will say, this is not an advertisement for Slater Prep, but I will say, if you wait too long to buy your prepared for the catastrophe food, you won't be able to get it. In the last, when the pandemic hit, that stuff disappeared very quickly. If you want to buy prep food, you need to buy it when things are calm and normal, like right now.
Absolutely. Now, jobs are up. What about this? You wrote an article about credit card and auto loan delinquencies. What's happening there, and who are the people? Who are the people who have these huge debts?
Yeah. So one of the things that happened, remember, during the post-pandemic period, was we had supply chain problems that made it so it was very difficult to manufacture cars. The price of cars went way up, and what happens when the price of cars goes up a lot? Auto loans go up a lot. People have to borrow more money. People had to borrow more money, though, as interest rates were climbing. So they borrowed more money at higher interest rates. So it's sort of a double whammy, right? It's more expensive and you pay more for the loan you're taking out. Well, so we had a giant climb in auto loan balances and very high interest rates. That is causing, now we're seeing a climb in delinquencies. That's hitting everybody in auto loans. Millennials are more affected than everybody else, in part, frankly, because they're just at a time in their life where they're more likely to be buying cars and less likely to be as financially secure as like Gen X or a boomer type. So millennials have gotten hit on auto loans. And then we also had a big run up in credit card debt. again, same thing. Interest things were more expensive, so people bought more expensive things with their credit card, and interest rates are climbing, so carrying that debt is more expensive. And in credit card debts in particular, millennial delinquencies are much higher than any other group.
Okay,
I think for this very
so
same
it looks
reason.
like the economy's. It looks like the economy's doing well in some ways, but like that's not. It's just
that part is very troubling, and could, if that gets much worse, could be pretty foreboding for the economy, and could eventually cause consumers to stop spending money. That's what's propping up the economy. But right now, frankly, I don't see it. People are still spending a lot of money.
That's amazing. We got literally 1 minute. What's the one big economic news that people are not paying attention to that we need to, that if you signed up for the Breitbart Business Digest newsletter, you would know about?
I think that we've already mentioned it, but the fact that inflation has come down a lot has made people think it's going to come down all the way back to 2%. There's very little to support that idea. The economy is growing too fast for inflation to keep coming down unless there is a huge increase in productivity of the American worker. There's very little evidence that yes, we may get that someday. Maybe AI will be great. Maybe just labor shortages will force companies to increase productivity. We're not seeing it yet in the data, and so I think we're in for some higher inflation than people anticipate right now.
Hey, Breitbart Business Digest newsletter. You get all the insight from John Carney. Thanks, John.